Sewing machines have a language of their own, and sometimes I think our machines talk to us. Some even sing. Anyone who has ever done machine embroidery can identify with the fascination that enthralls us as we watch the designs being revealed. Sometimes that design is a simple letter that makes a statement, and sometimes complete sentences are communicated by needle and thread. Our conversation today begins with the use of fonts in machine embroidery, where those threads of thought can be showcased in a project. Tucked into our few minutes together will be more hand embroidery instruction, as well as instruction on one of my favorite topics, pintucks. Thank you for joining me as we share heart to heart our love of heirloom sewing. Welcome to my sewing room. This is the sweetest little day gown, done in this wonderful happy green with a beautiful machine embroidered trim, the good looking tucks, very tailored day gown, really, really nice for today. And the grippers come down the front, the snaps, and more of the decorative trim has been used on the bottom. I just have to show you the back too. You know, we love for the backs to be as cute as the front. You see the decorative trim goes across the back and the little tucks, and then all the way down, more decorative trim goes all the way around the bottom. Another adorable day gown, this time in blue, with a wider row of decorative trim that goes all the way down the front of the day gown. And the little back of this day gown is just sweet with the high yoke, and it has the little tucks that hold in the fullness. Now this decorative trim is really very easy to do. You use a piece of fabric that is 3 times as wide as your decorative trim. Fold it under in thirds, fold it under in thirds, and then press. At that point, get your stabilizer, do your decorative trim on both sides, and you see we have just a little bit, one more row to do in the middle. Here's your piece of decorative trim, which you can now sew anywhere you would like on your adorable little day gowns. I am so pleased to have as my guest today my very dear friend June Mellinger. June is Director of Education for Brother. June, welcome to the show.
Hi Martha, how are you this year?
I'm wonderful, and thank you so much for these adorable day gowns.
Well, I'm sure you love them as much as we do.
I
They
do.
just look great.
I do.
Now
I
don't
love it.
keep those.
Oh, okay. Show us a little bit about it, June.
Well, you know, everybody wants to embellish things today, put a special touch to it, and I don't think that you mentioned that those beautiful little designs are actually O's and X's. Now, many of your viewers today have machines that have decorative alphabets in them. Why not use them for something else besides a name? Now you can make a trim with the X's and O's.
For hugs and kisses, right?
That's
hugs
right.
and kisses for our new babies, and we're
That's
both
right.
grandmothers, so we
Yes,
know
we
what
understand
we
that.
know what we understand,
Yeah,
don't we?
That's right. That's right. So today, with the machine here in front of me, I've selected the O's and the X's for those hugs and kisses, and I selected them in a small size, and I actually could have them alternate, and I'm ready to do some embroidery. And as you mentioned, it's important to have the stabilizer behind it because this is a lightweight fabric, and I've selected a presser foot that's specific for creating decorative stitches. The bottom of the foot has a little opening in it for the path for the stitches to form over, and I've got the same color thread in the bobbin as well as the upper thread area, and I've marked the fabric, and I'm using the edge of my foot as a reference point. So I'm just going to embroider those letters all the way down the edge of the fabric, and it's mindless work and a lot of fun because you're thinking about the future with that child that's going to wear this.
Oh.
So as we're finished with that, when we're all done, you can see the beautiful look that I've been able to create with this design.
And it's finished because
It's all
you folded the 3, one edge, so
Right.
it's now ready to stitch anywhere you want to stitch it.
Anywhere you want to stitch it.
You know what? You have some absolutely adorable. We saw these precious little day gowns. Let's talk about these little bibs.
Well, you know, we always have a little bit extra. It's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh.
So we said, why not make some extra bibs to go with the day gown so the day gown stays nicely preserved. So you can see we've used our automatic machine embroidery to do the lettering in the middle for the monogramming.
Oh.
And then we've added the O's, where that's really another neat feature in some of our machines today. I can actually put in the letter O and then I can mirror image it so it looks like it's tilted in the other direction. And again, just resting that on top of the fabric and mitering the corners automatically. And it's anchored with a very narrow zigzag stitch.
And this is absolutely precious. You've made a darling bib.
Right.
And that's the wider piece.
It's the wider piece.
And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hold this day
So
gown
now
up
you can
here.
see how pretty it would look
So
together.
cute. And what a baby gift to give.
What a baby gift to give.
And you know what? I love day gowns. As a matter of fact, in the South, we tend to wear day gowns for the first 6 to 8 weeks of a baby's life. And I think you said that you had a special use for day gowns for some of your children.
We sure did. Two of our oldest sons had feet that kind of turned in, so they had to wear a bar on their feet, and they had to wear it when they slept at night. So actually, the day gown let them sleep comfortably because the bar was on and the day gown didn't confine their feet.
That is so fascinating to me because so many children do have to have those bars, and I had not thought about day gowns in that respect. And now June has some sewing inspiration she has brought to share with you. June, I absolutely love this jacket. It has so many details. Now let's just share with our viewers all of these fun details.
There's a lot of things happening in this jacket.
And it's so pretty.
It starts out with that really cute potpourri that you can hang over the hanger so that it smells delicious when you take it out to wear it. And look at this wonderful, again, decorative hanger so that it's padded and use of a decorative stitch. And look what this is. It looks like a little cameo pin that
to go on the decorative
with the jacket.
hanger.
It's an inspiration as to what you need to wear under that jacket.
Okay.
And look at this. We've used some ribbon here and anchored that down with some nice stitching, and then we've added this really cute butterfly. It's almost hidden. It's not too much, it's just right. And then as you travel down the jacket, you see some great decorative stitches in these panels of color with the use of metallic thread. Remember, you want to sew a little bit slower with the metallic threads, and you're going to do a great job with metallic threads today. And again, more decorative stitches. And over on the sleeve, just wanted to show you real quick, look at the use of a wide stitch so that you can be inspired to use the wider decorative stitches in your machine, a swirl and a diamond here, and in between you've got the decorative stitches going down the seams.
And just have fun making something
just
for us.
Fun. It's very high end.
Love the hangers that go with the day gowns.
Oh. Beautiful use of border frames where you're connecting your designs for automatic machine embroidery. Beautiful use of color, and again those nice swirly stitches down to make a padded hanger. And I love this pocket on the hanger. You can put a little lock of hair in there for the first haircut, anything. It's just really a nice memory.
You know what I think? For the christening dress, you could also put the beauty pins in here.
That's right.
If you used beauty pins on the back, that would be the perfect place to store the beauty pins.
On the back of that hanger, there's some more use of that embellishment, the hugs and kisses that you created, and a pretty bow that you made to put with the hanger.
Love it.
And you know, today a lot of people,
fascinating,
a lot of people have lots of decorative stitches in their embroidery machines. So this is a Cyrillic font, but instead we use it for decorative creations.
It's just good looking.
It's very attractive.
Now this is, I love your hangers. All these beautiful
hangers
to go with
it. We want to make sure they have a special memory. Just the other day, I went to the mall and I was in a high-end dress shop, and they had a beautiful white tailored dress with decorative stitches. And I went, darn, we have the same pattern in our store, in our shop at in the office. So we went over and got out this sample, and there it is.
Didn't you
so
say
we're
something
mimicking
like $300?
$300.
Oh my goodness!
And it was just a white dress. Very pretty.
Just white with, there's a lot of white.
A lot of white going on this season. And again, more decorative stitches.
Shell.
Pretty shell.
See, I would love to wear this shell under a jacket because I wear shells all the time.
All the time.
And I love your padded hangers. And aren't these fun gifts?
Fun gifts. People, when you give that as a gift, people always say to you, oh, I never thought of having something like that.
Something that pretty.
for themselves.
June now has a absolutely adorable project for you. A so quick, so easy project. June, I think that is the sweetest birth announcement that you're getting ready to show out that I've ever seen in my life. Go ahead and show our viewers. Wow.
Okay.
Oh, I love it. I love
This is a great gift. You're going to take, again, the technique of the decorative letters, but this time I've just used the letter O for lots of kisses, and I've mirror imaged it so it looks like a beautiful decorative design. And I've added the baby's monogram and the birth date, and I've also used the machine embroidery to create this great little pocket. Let me show you how I did that.
Okay, that's on paper now.
That's on paper. No, linens.
Linens.
Looks like paper though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the card is paper, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
the card is a
okay.
photograph.
Oh, so cute.
So again, I've created the decorative image with the O's and the mirror imaging. And I've also used some starch so that I'm sure that I get a nice result of the built-in decorative alphabet for the baby's initials and the birth date. Gotta have that birth date all the time so people have that heirloom for tomorrow. And again, I've been able to use my computer so I can print out what the design will look like. I have the exact sizing, and here's the finish on this beautiful linen. It's important to remember to use the right kind of thread and stabilizer so I get a perfect result, and don't be afraid to change your needle so you have a fresh look. And again, look at how easy it was to make this pretty little handkerchief where I've just used the binding, and I haven't caught that binding in the blue batiste. I've just laid it on top and stitched it down with a nice small zigzag stitch, and I've self-mitered the corners as I went around. And again, there's the birth.
Now I have to let our viewers see this one more time, and let's open it up. And this is the perfect place for the picture of the baby. Oh, gee, this is some kind of wonderful birth announcement. And so much fun to make. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And now we have some hand embroidery to share with you. I am so happy to have as my guest today my dear friend Wendy Schoen. Wendy is the creator of the Petite Crochet pattern line, and she owns Wendy Schoen Design. Wendy is a regular contributor to So Beautiful magazine and has studied many places, including the Royal School of Needlework in London. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martha. It's always great to be here. Today we're going to talk about colonial knot flowers. Now on this little gown that I brought, you'll see the little flowers that look like a group of little dots, and basically that's what they are. So now let's go to the hoop and we'll show you how to do them. Colonial knots are very simple. It's just a glorified French knot. It has an extra wrap. So you know that on French knots you would only wrap the needle once. If you wanted a larger knot, a colonial knot will fill the bill. Now, I've drawn the little series of dots on the hoop, and those represent where I'm going to actually make the stitch. We're going to emerge right in the bottom of the stitch. In other words, we're going to go to the lower end of the knot or the dot. Colonial knots begin with a little loop, and actually it's a backward C. The tip of the needle will point away from me, and so I'm going to bring it in just so that it hangs the thread on the needle. Then I'm going to take my non-stitching hand and I'm going to loop it over the tip of the needle counterclockwise. And if you look at the thread, you'll see that it is forming a figure 8. Now, when you go down in the fabric, you're going to hold on to the thread tail and bring the tip of the needle in above the starting place, or the place where the thread is emerging. Tighten the stitch with the thread tail while holding on to the needle, and then bring it through. Pop it, and while you hold on to the thread, tie the knot. Now, to make it a little bit easier to remember, I've come up with a little rhyme or a little poem so that you can remember the steps easier. First, you make a backward C. The tip of the needle points away from me. Scoop the loop, then over the top, and that's how you make a colonial knot.
Well, I like that.
Now, I think it's only fair to mention that if you are a left-handed embroiderer, you would probably have to reverse the motion. So instead of making a backward C, you would make a right reading C, and then you would be scooping this way, and then you would also reverse the motion of the twist. So you would actually be going clockwise on the stitch. I know not many of you are going to be able to do this ambidextrously, but I had to learn how to do that when I learned how to stitch in this hoop, because the hoop never gets rotated. So you have to learn how to do the stitches backwards and frontwards. So I'm going to go ahead and do it again for your right-handers. You want to take and make a backward C. Make sure the tip of the needle points away from you. Bring it through the loop, then over the top and down. Now, whenever you go down in the fabric, try to always go above and down, because if you bring the needle behind the emerging stitch, you actually create an additional loop or an additional twist, and you don't want to do that. And the same goes for a French knot. When you make a French knot, you'll go straight onto the needle and you will twist it around just one time. So you see, you're only making like a little E. And then when you go down in the fabric, you always go forward, never back. So if you see how I'm bringing the needle down, I'm bringing it forward, and the thread is straight, that would be correct. But to bring it back, you see how it makes another loop. So I'll go ahead and make another colonial knot.
Do your little poem while you're doing it.
Okay, first we make a backward C. The tip of the needle points away from me. That's important because you tend to want to do this. So you want to keep the needle point away. Scoop the loop, then over the top, and that's how we make a colonial knot. Okay, so I'm going to make all knots here. They're going to be, of course, closer than I'm showing. And of course, I'm not going to be making it with pearl cotton number 5, but as always, I always like to take it up a couple of steps so that you can see it better. Okay, so this is the end of my flower, and then at this point, I would just go to the back and probably weave it through a few of those little stitches, and that would be the end of it. And of course, I always add a little leaf or some sort of stitch, usually a lazy daisy stitch, to add dimension to the stitch. And that's all there is to it, Martha.
Well, and that's a really beloved stitch too, the little colonial knots. Wendy, thank you so much for being with me today.
It's my pleasure.
And now we have some beautiful doll dressing ideas for you. I love dolls, and I love to make doll clothes. Today, the doll dress is fabulous, I have to share with you. And you know, I love to sew for this larger doll. She's 23 inches. It's easier to sew and dress a larger doll, and my granddaughters love this size doll. This is a beautiful bodice of the dress. It has just row after row after row of double needle pin tucks. Of course, a silk satin ribbon sash. And the fancy band is awfully pretty. It has entre-deux, 2 rows of insertion, a beautiful row of double needle pin tucks, 2 rows of insertion, entre-deux, and gathered lace edging. Of course, we use nothing but natural fibers and the French laces that have the gathering thread built in. Now, don't be afraid of double needle pin tucks. If you are so fortunate as to have a pin tuck foot, please do use it. But if you don't have a pin tuck foot, you can just use a regular sewing foot. I use 2 different types of needles for double needle pin tucks, 1.6 size or 2.0 size. You could certainly use other sizes, but for the batiste fabrics, those seem to be the best for me. I will add too that you do not spray starch, well, you can press, but do not spray starch your fabric when you're going to do double needle pin tucks, because you want the pin tucks to stand up. Now, I am working on my second row of double needle pin tucks here, and I'm guiding. I'm using a regular foot here, by the way, just to show you, you do not have to have a pin tuck foot. I am guiding the edge of the foot right along beside the other row of pintucks I just made. And I will have to tell you that pintucks are beautiful trims, and they don't cost any money. They just take some of your time. Okay, the fancy band has the entredeaux, insertion, pintucks, and more insertion. Now look, the reason I have trimmed off the batiste seam allowance of the entredeaux, when I'm going to attach entredeaux to lace, I butt it up and then I zigzag. And you might say, now Martha, is my zigzag supposed to go into one hole of the entredeaux and on the edge of the lace? Well, that's a good thing to imagine, but it won't do it. So you just sort of go the way it looks good to you, because the needle will not go into every hole and then just go into the next one. So just zigzag it together. Now another trick I want to share with you, as you know, on French laces, we have a pull thread that is built into the top of the French laces. But sometimes it gets wiggly and squiggly when you put those, you pull the gathers. And you do need to, see what I'm saying, it kind of wiggles and squiggles. And you want to distribute those gathers evenly. So what I like to do after I get these gathers in and distributed, I like to take a sewing tape. Actually, it's a quilting tape. It looks kind of like tiger teeth, to tell you the truth. I like to put that tape down. Now, not up on the very edge, but down to hold the gathers so they will stay in place as I trim the seam allowance from this entredeaux, butt the gathered lace up to the entredeaux, and once again, zigzag the gathered lace on. Now won't you join me while I share a piece of my antique clothing with you? Ladies 100 years ago loved pintucks too, just like the little doll dress we just saw. This magnificent dress is about 100 years old. Do you see the whole bodice has these wonderful pintucks across it? Then look at the beautiful Swiss embroidery that has flowers and bows. Something kind of interesting about this dress. That's probably the smallest waistline I've ever seen on one of my dresses. I'm going to pick the dress up so you can see the beautiful embroidery that is on the bottom of the dress. Now these embroideries are from Switzerland, and the first Swiss came out about 1857, the first Swiss embroideries. I have a letter here from Captain Eddie Castellan about his wife. I have an interesting story about my wife of 20 years. This lady lives a blessed life and is one of the most caring, loving people I know. She not only helps out where necessary, she seeks out projects to help others. Recently, I was in the hospital for a heart procedure. Cindy received several comments on the 3 quilted bags she was carrying with handwork to keep her occupied. I sought out an old friend, the head of nursing for this huge hospital, so they could discuss a project where Cindy and her gang would develop quilted tote bags for every lady working on the campus, all 2,000 of them. She never blinked at the number, just went to work developing the project. The terms impossible or overwhelming were never uttered. This is the kind of person she is. My wife Cindy is not only the most avid seamstress I've ever known, she's one of the kindest and most caring people in the world. Well, Captain Eddie Castellan, thank you for this letter. Thank you for joining me today. Won't you come back next time?